Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Lightyear comes out in cinemas tomorrow, so I recently started watching Buzz Lightyear of Star Command to mark the occasion. This animated series is about Buzz teaming up with rookie space rangers Mira, XR, and Booster as they go on galactic adventures to stop evil. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command is basically a junior Star Trek for Pixar fans, and I loved watching it every day on TV as a kid. As an adult, I was impressed by how ambitious it was for a cheap spin-off cartoon. There's some serious effort behind the show's world building, sci-fi lingo, technology concepts, and character development. The series had every chance of just being a sloppy cash grab, but it exceeded my expectations on rewatch, managing to stay true to a beloved Pixar hero, while also embracing its own weird identity. In this video, I'm going to be counting down my picks for the top 5 best and worst episodes of this cartoon, but I have to make two things clear before anything. Number 1, every episode on my worst list must be given constructive feedback, because I want to do these videos with good faith. Number 2, I won't be counting the pilot, The Adventure Begins, as a contender for this video, due to it being more of a feature film than an actual episode of the TV series. With all of that said, let's begin with my picks for the top 5 worst episodes. Strange Invasion. In this episode, Buzz and his team end up landing on planet Roswell, and their presence causes a stir. Roswell's military tried to cover up this alien invasion, but a humble sheriff is onto the truth and decides to help our heroes get home. Strange Invasion certainly has an interesting premise. What if the Roswell conspiracy happened on an alien planet? But it's perhaps the least imaginative way that it could have been done. The whole episode is lacking in creativity, because it's basically everything you would expect from a peaceful alien landing on a planet plot. There's an ET parody, an alien dissection scene, government cover-up fodder, plus a finale where the aliens escape with the natives' help, while the military chases them down. I'm totally cool with cliches being in cartoons if said cliches are put to creative use. My problem is that the episode strictly follows them all like a shopping list for stock ingredients, and only adds the tiniest of cosmetic changes. Let me better explain. You see, this planet is just Earth, but with generic humanoid alien species instead of Earthlings. So there's not much to get excited about, and the comedy has very little to work with. I mean, there's only so many variations you can make on the one same joke.
Oh, Suzanne, how I've missed your huge black olive eyes, your almost non-existent nose, and that tiny slit for a mouth. I'll never look at another again.
Don't get me wrong, there's some endearing charm to come from the southern drawled sheriff.
Hey, we don't need Aunt Dee seeing our friend here. You know how she gets. She wouldn't understand.
But you understand, don't you, Daddy?
And the sheriff's daughter's bonding scenes with Booster are downright adorable.
May I have some more tea, please?
Okay, but only if you stop gulping it down, Pickles. You must learn to sip like a lady.
But the episode's overall concept is kind of wasted in execution to me. So how could have this episode been improved? I think that this planet needed to be less like Earth, and more of its own weird thing. Like, what if these aliens spoke their own unique language, had advanced technology to track or dissect invaders with, or walked on all fours? Just something to inspire an episode that plays around more with the concept of a reverse Roswell story. The Plasma Monster. Buzz's team have been assigned to escort Petra, the rebellious daughter of a senator, to Star Command, where she'll train to become a space ranger. On their way, Booster develops a cute crush on Petra, and he tries to get closer to her by being a tour guide of the ship. All of a sudden, the ship is attacked by a plasma monster, who turns out to be Petra's boyfriend, Plasma Boy. Booster gets immediately jealous of Plasma Boy, and a fight breaks out. Meanwhile, XR and Mira see Plasma Boy from a distance and shock him. This causes Plasma Boy to turn to a giant red thunderstorm. My issue with this episode is that it's unnecessarily melodramatic. Sure, I should expect an after-school cartoon set in space to get a little theatrical, but this episode ventures into soap opera territory. First of all, Booster's reaction to Petra having a boyfriend is very over-exaggerated. He'd only known her for 5 minutes, and his feelings were purely infatuation, so I didn't sympathize with his disappointment, and his tantrum comes right out of nowhere.
You're a big craterhead, Petra! You too, Plasma Boy!
Secondly, Buzz is a really irresponsible adult role model in this episode. He does at least try to step in, but he doesn't take all of this toxic masculinity that seriously. Not only is his advice to Booster all over the place and kind of wishy-washy, going from aggressively lecturing him about the friend zone myth.
Next thing you know, she vaporizes your heart, flushes it out the airlock like so much space debris, and when it's all over, she hopes you'll still be friends! You know what friend means, Booster? It means loser!
To shyly retracting everything he ranted after Booster embarrasses himself.
Perhaps you should disregard my earlier advice.
But he also reacts to Booster and Plasma Boy's fight with an outdated boys will be boys attitude.
Ooh, plasma monster, plasma monster, plasma monster.
See, no harm will come from their boyish shenanigans.
Yes, Buzz's whole character is being a dense himbo, but I draw the line when his stupidity causes harm. Now, sure, Booster does feel remorse for his actions, goes out of his way to save Plasma Boy, and accepts that his crush has a boyfriend. But by this point, I had a sour taste from how all of this melodrama had not been earned. How would I make this episode better? Well, I think the trip shouldn't have been interrupted by Plasma Boy. Instead, Petra could have been safely transported to Star Command. Then, while Petra is training to be a Space Ranger, Booster would grow closer to her throughout the episode. However, Petra would then later decide that being a Space Ranger isn't for her, and she plans to leave Star Command. At first, Booster is angry at Petra for going away, but then Buzz explains to Booster about how respecting Petra's decision is how he can show he loves her. This version of the episode will be able to explore controlling feelings and accepting disappointment, while also making us sympathize more with Booster, staying true to Petra's rebellious personality, and giving Buzz a chance to be the mature older voice of reason. As it is though, the Plasma Monster is an overly melodramatic soap opera that's often irresponsible. It's definitely one of the show's low points to me. Lone Wolf. When Buzz and his team are struggling to win a courtroom case against a criminal they arrested, Buzz decides to inspire them with a life story. Many years ago, Buzz failed to win a different courtroom battle, so he decided to quit Star Command and become a lone wolf. On his journey, he befriended Mother Zoe and her son Micah, who were running a family gas farm, while also dealing with a crooked tycoon at the time. Buzz refused to play hero again, until Micah reminded him of his duty as a ranger, and donned his suit for action. We then cut back to the present day courtroom, where Buzz reveals to his team that he had evidence all along, and the criminal is sent to jail, which inspires his team to believe in justice again. Now sure, the idea of seeing Buzz's past as a lone wolf sounds cool on paper, but I found the execution boring and poorly written. The flashback adopts a western movie template for its story, which leads to every predictable beat we associate with westerns, the one difference being that it's set in space. Yet Zoe and Micah are a charming family, and their gas farm is a unique sci-fi setting. But everything that happens in Buzz's Lone Wolf story is the same thing that happens in every wandering cowboy drama. There's not even a tongue-in-cheek self-awareness to it all. The episode is following every cliche with a serious tone.
You should reconsider my very civilized offer to purchase your land before someone gets hurt.
Your concern is touching, Varkas, but we're staying put.
Maybe kids who haven't seen a western before might enjoy it, and I know that not everything can be 100% original, but I've seen this show demonstrate its originality skills time and time again, so I shouldn't expect an episode that's just a vanilla western with a sci-fi coating. We cut back to the present, and Buzz randomly explains how he happened to find evidence the night before the court case, which isn't exactly a good lesson to his crewmates about not giving up when things are low. Because it's just a convenient Deus Ex Machina for Buzz, not an example of working hard in a disadvantaged situation. I also wasn't a fan of the episode's argument that the law system is being unfairly stacked against the Rangers. You see, in both court cases, it was less the fault of the system, and more the Rangers failing at their jobs. In the present day case, they don't have enough evidence, yet get mad at the judge for threatening to release the criminal unless they present proof.
The opinion of the court is that Star Command has not produced enough evidence to hold the accused.
But, Your Honor!
We strenuously object!
With all due respect, Judge, you try frisking that thing.
Yes, the judge has given them a strict 10-minute time limit to provide proof, but come on, the Rangers brought a criminal to court with an insufficient amount of evidence. So of course the busy judge is going to feel like his time is being wasted. Then in the flashback case, Buzz carelessly destroyed the evidence.
I am hereby ordering his release.
What?
It's your own fault, cowboy. You blew up the evidence.
And throws a strop about the judge pointing this out.
I quit. I was fed up with the system, fed up with the futile fight for justice.
So how could have this episode been better? Well, I'd get rid of the whole flashback sequence. It's dull as dishwater and not necessary. Instead, the episode should have focused on being a courtroom thriller with an emphasis on corrupt unfairness. The criminal's lawyer could be bribing the jury, or the existing evidence could have been tampered with, and the Rangers would have to rely on their detective skills to highlight this unfairness, slowly finding new clues as the courtroom drama goes on. This would not only inspire a tension-driven episode that shows the Rangers' more intellectual sides, but also justify the Rangers' frustrations at the system, and the Rangers would have actually earned their new optimism and justice by the episode's end. Oh, and to stop the episode from falling into the trap of being a generic law thriller, the criminal could have been an alien species who can create illusions, and Buzz's crew would have had to work out which evidence is real and fake. Enemy without a face. When Buzz and his team end up in the middle of a war between the last remaining survivors of two alien tribes, Mira and XR join one side, while Buzz and Booster join the other. We then find out that these warriors were actually victims of a parasite that stimulates aggressive impulses. Unfortunately, these same parasites end up becoming a nuisance for our heroes too, and the Rangers turn violently hostile whenever a parasite latches onto them. What made this episode particularly unenjoyable to me was how overwhelmingly mean-spirited it came off. The first half is just two warriors barbarically fighting one another while the divided Rangers argue and rant about which warrior is the good side.
You're the one who's cavorting.
Offering aid is not cavorting.
They destroyed this planet.
We're fighting for a just cause.
So are we.
You shot at us first.
You were about to attack!
Then the second half is just our beloved Ranger heroes acting like hostile jerks towards each other.
I'm in charge here.
Hot off the pound cake, buddy!
Forget it, losers. I'm taking over.
Oh, yeah! Bacon! Give me bacon!
Sure, no one is voluntarily behaving horribly, it's all the parasite's fault. But there's only so much angry hostility I can watch in a cartoon before it gets tiresome and annoying. I mean, there's not much else to really say about this episode, because that's all it really is. Superheroes being uncontrollably nasty and violent to each other. I guess it's funny to see the wholesome good guys going batshit insane at first, but that comedy wears off as the chaos drags on and on and on. There's actually another episode that tackles the whole involuntary possession concept far better. In The Shape Stealer, Zurg has created a dark creature that can take over anybody at once. The episode is very fun to watch because there's a genuine tense atmosphere throughout, the Rangers have to be suspicious of who the Shape Stealer has possessed, and the stakes are raised high in the finale when Buzz is possessed to gain control of Star Command's biggest computer. So yeah, the best example of how Enemy Without a Face can be improved is actually demonstrated perfectly in the Shape Stealer episode. Devolutionaries. A race of spiritual aliens have just finished a ritual, when all of a sudden, warp dark matter attacks them with a strange red gas, and the aliens send out a red signal alert. Buzz tracks their emergency call, and the team go investigate what's happened. It turns out that these spiritual aliens have been devolved back to monkey-like states, as part of Zurg's plan to turn everyone into docile primitives, so that it's easier for him to take over planets. What's worse is that Warp then manages to devolve Buzz, Mira, and Booster too, leaving XR to retrain his primitive friends. This episode is kind of like what you expect a bad Buzz Lightyear cartoon series to be like. Instead of an engaging space adventure that respects kids' intelligence, we get this obnoxious and loud babysitting story.
Buzz make pretty music.
All the characters, minus XR, have either become a dumb Neanderthal, a dinosaur who can only growl, or mindless sludge, which takes away the main appeal of the show, that being the charismatic Buzz and his team of eccentric Rangers bouncing their strong personalities off of each other. Now yes, XR is still functioning and talking, but that's another problem. The only Ranger we can connect to in this episode also happens to be the most annoying one. XR works well as a sarcastic comic relief for the show, but he's kind of insufferable when he's on his own. Heck, in this particular episode, XR is 3 times as more irritating because he's become narcissistically obsessed with his own merchandise.
That villain won't get far, for we shall give chase. For my name's not...
XR, Robot Ranger.
Maybe kids will laugh and giggle at the goofy stupidity of this episode, which is totally fine. But I expect a lot better from this show than the shallow antics of dumbed down space rangers.
To infinity and...
Shiny guy fun!
I've been scratching my head over how this episode could have been better, but I guess it would have been way more fun if only Buzz got devolved. Then the conflict would be the team trying to do their jobs with a Neanderthal in charge. This would give us more Space Rangers to resonate with besides XR, and challenge the rookies to adapt without a competent role model in charge. Plus it would be funny seeing Caveman Buzz trying to play leader. In all honesty, if I saw this episode as a kid, I think I would have been a little disappointed, because it's missing all the charms of what makes this cartoon show worth tuning in for. Okay, now that you know my choices for the worst episodes, let's now move on to my picks for the cream of the crop, the top 5 best ones. The main event. Norbert Klum is the richest man in the galaxy, and he's paying sleazeball Rentwhistle swag to entertain him with live fights on an empty planet. But Norbert is bored by what Rentwhistle has to offer. That is until Norbert decides to pit Buzz Lightyear against Emperor Zurg for the fun of it. One of the biggest appeals of this cartoon series is the long-running rivalry between Buzz and Zurg. Heck, it's a big reason why kids love watching this series. However, we actually very rarely see these two duke it out face to face, because Zurg is always hiding behind minions, fancy technology, or hired assassins. So it's great to see an episode that strips Zurg of his privileges, takes away any distractions, and boils everything down to a battle between two galactic enemies. Zurg is used to having the advantages of being an all-powerful emperor, but in this episode, he's pushed down to the same playing field as Buzz, and has to adapt to the planet's environment to beat his greatest foe.
Why resist, Lightyear? This time I've got you.
The episode gets even more exciting once Buzz and Zurg realise that they've been baited, because now they have a shared enemy. Buzz goes up against Norbert's right-hand robot, while Zurg casually walks onto Norbert's ship to blow up his technology out of frustration.
I hate it. And I hate you!
Man, you broke it.
The main event embodies the spirit of what Buzz Lightyear fans want to see. No bells or whistles, just a fun, exciting versus battle between a hero and villain, both being handicapped by their own personal disadvantages, all while a crazed billionaire watches in glee, stoking the fire with creepy enthusiasm. The Slayer. When Buzz and XR head to the crime-ridden planet of Trade World to find the evil robot vampire Nosferatu, they end up meeting an orphan girl called Savvy. Savvy was adopted by robot parents, who were energy drained by Nosferatu. Buzz and XR team up with Savvy to finally slay the legendary Fang machine. Nosferatu is one of the best villains in this show, from his imaginative name to his awesome mechanical design. The Slayer is one of the finest uses of his character, because it casts him as the antagonist in a nighttime Trade World case, and the end result is a cyberpunk vampire horror with a Blade Runner backdrop. Yes, it's as cool as that sounds. Trade World's after dark atmosphere is quite gritty for kids' cartoon standards. You really get the impression that this is a truly dirty, dangerous and scummy place to live. Plus, seeing the neon-lit Nosferatu flying around this dystopian hellhole is quite a strong visual. But the most interesting aspect of the episode is Savvy herself. A parentless kid who has had to adapt to surviving in a crime-ridden dump on her own. On the one hand, it's very tragic how this child has had to grow up fast in order to stay alive, but on the other hand, kids will love seeing a girl their age being a badass independent robot vampire slayer. Savvy tries to put on a tough front to stay strong, but there's some complex emotions behind her cool attitude.
Are you saying it's my fault?
Well, little lady, if you hadn't rushed in without thinking, I'd be booking Nosferatu right now.
Sorry. Just trying to help.
Plus, due to her robot upbringing, she has an instinct to be compassionate towards machines, and even tries to save XR while he's dying.
Step away from that robot. Looting is a crime.
I'm not looting. I'm looking for his auxiliary reboot switch.
We also get this sorrowful scene where Savvy finds her drained robot parents in a sewer, discarded like chicken bones by the evil Nosferatu. It's quite commendable seeing an after-school cartoon being this dark with its drama.
These are my parents.
I'm sorry, Savvy.
Time to get even.
When Savvy eventually slays Nosferatu, it's such a powerful moment, because we get to see this evil robot being staked by one of his own tragic victims. The Slayer is a terrific Buzz Lightyear episode that creatively places Nosferatu in a setting that he perfectly fits into as a threat, but it's Savvy who steals the show as a vampire-slaying orphan for kids to instantly connect to. Haunted Moon. Something strange is haunting a construction site on a moon, chanting the echoing words of no one, no law. So Buzz and his team head over, and the crew become divided over what this sinister presence could be. As you may have worked out after seeing my last pick, this Toon Disney series has a surprising dark side, and I found Haunted Moon to be the show's darkest episode. I don't mean that it's like a spooky Halloween special. Haunted Moon treats its paranormal mystery with the same gravitas as a Hollywood ghost film. Oh, and the fact that esteemed character actors like Clancy Brown and Ron Perlman dryly voice the construction workers adds some authenticity to the episode's mature tone.
No law, No one. Nola. No one.
That's all he's been saying since he got a look at it.
Look at what?
You tell me.
There's a sinister atmosphere to the episode that relies on classic horror principles, and I can imagine it possibly scaring more sensitive kids. Heck, the image of workers freezing over are quite intense for this show.
Forget this. I'll never be able to.
We must evacuate immediately.
Buzz's crew don't immediately know what this thing could be or what it wants. All they can do is brave the construction site to find clues, and hope that they can handle the fear.
I'm not going that way.
I thought you said there was no such things as ghosts.
Only because I hadn't seen that.
The ghost also happens to be haunting a very special construction site. This isn't a run-of-the-mill project, it's the building location for a device to stop a predicted ice-comet collision. This means that Buzz's crew have to be careful not to scare the construction workers, and they have to keep up brave faces around them.
Why? What did you see?
You heard the man. What do you think we saw? We saw a ghost!
Nothing to worry about, little mistake.
Towards the episode's end, we finally come to the truth. When Buzz finds a mysterious ship floating nearby, he discovers a frozen body that's in a cryogenic stasis, and he uses his heat laser to unfreeze it. The man under the frost is Wild Bill, someone who tried to stop the ice comet all by himself 50 years ago, but got caught in its tail and had been frozen since. During this time, Bill developed the ability to haunt the nearby construction site, to warn everyone to not tackle this ice comet alone. No one, no law actually meant no one alone backwards.
No one alone. No one alone. Is that so hard to understand?
It is if you say it backwards. What? Well, that's what you kept saying, and no one. Nobody knew what you meant.
Then Buzz helps Wild Bill to defeat the very ice comet that froze him 50 years ago. It's a comforting reveal that'll calm down spooked out kids watching, while also neatly tying into the heart of the show, which is the importance of accepting teammates' help. Haunted Moon is a brilliant children's horror story that's not afraid to get creepy. Plus it's refreshing seeing Buzz's crew taking on a more paranormal threat, rather than a supervillain of the week. Revenge of the Monsters. Space Ranger Ty Parsec was once cursed into turning into a werewolf, but the curse was luckily defeated. Unfortunately, Commander Nebulon refuses to trust that Ty won't transform back again, so Ty is discharged from Star Command. Meanwhile, it turns out that Nosferatu has rebooted, and has teamed up with the Frankenstein monster-esque robot XL. XL tries to kidnap Ty Parsec from the Star Command hearing, and Nosferatu triggers Ty's werewolf transformation with a moon rock. Nosferatu plans to use Ty to power a ray gun that can turn people into werewolves, so that he can drain as much robot energy as he wants. It's up to Buzz and his crew to stop this trio of monsters. There's so much to love about this episode that I don't know where to begin. The show is basically uniting the most prominent robot villains in the series, in an affectionate tribute to classic monster movie crossovers. There's a campy fun to the whole thing that recaptures the spirit of Universal horror mashups.
What's with all the ends? Are we sharing this palace, or do I get my own?
My dear XL, fear not. I have a special place in mind just for you.
I also like how high the stakes have been raised for this episode. You see, Nosferatu not only has every mecha villain by his side, but he also ends up taking over Zurg's lair. Yes, Nosferatu managed to overthrow the most powerful villain in this universe, and the master who created him. That's wild.
You're coming. Discuss this Nosferatu? Nosy? After all, I made you. We're like family.
Oh yes, Daddy dearest. And it's time for you to pass on the family business.
And let's not forget how Nosferatu ends up transforming Buzz's crew into werewolves, which creates a huge disadvantage for Buzz, because he's down 2 rangers, and has to deal with even more monsters. Star Command's entire staff have been morphed into werewolves too, so backup isn't an option. But the episode isn't just all big spectacle. You have to remember that Nosferatu has teamed up with 2 of the show's most tragic villains, and the rocks are the emotional core of this episode. Ty Parsec is a victim of a curse that took away a job he loved, while XL was created for good by Star Command, but the project was a technical failure, and so he turned to evil under the belief that he was never meant to be good. In this episode, Ty becomes a tool for Nosferatu's evil plans, but once the ray gun is destroyed, he regains self-control and becomes the one to destroy Nosferatu.
I am your dumb master!
At the same time, Buzz convinces XL to join his side, by offering him the chance to be the Space Ranger he was meant to be.
XL, you were once a ranger, and that's not something you can just wipe from your hard drive. No, my friend. That's part of your operating system. Well, you may have strayed onto the path of evil, but I'm willing to bet that when the microchips are down and the fate of the galaxy lays in the balance, you, my friend, are still a space ranger.
The final chapter of the Nosferatu saga is more than just an entertaining action-packed climax to the robot vampire's reign. It's also about cursed monsters being given a second chance. I find it amazing how it manages to be both of those things in such a contained time. Shiv Katal. When a brain pod escapes Zurg's empire, the evil emperor calls in the highly skilled Shiv Katal to assassinate them. Meanwhile, Commander Nebulon informs Buzz that Shiv has been hired into action, and sends Lightyear on a solo mission to take Shiv down. Mira feels offended that Buzz's crew have been left out, so she decides that they should track Shiv down themselves, only for Buzz to turn out to be behind the metal mask. It's revealed that Shiv Katal is a persona that Buzz uses to help Zurg's employees quit their boss safely. The mystery of Shiv Katal is what will draw viewers into this episode at first. I really respect how the show handles the enigma of this character. Shiv is hyped up as Zurg's strongest henchman, even stronger than Buzz. But there's also something familiar about him. Those with keen observation will notice how eerie Shiv's build, voice inflections, and fighting style come off, while also being hesitant to believe that it's our favourite space ranger under the armour. The episode makes us suspicious about what's happening, but doesn't spell things out like kids are dum-dums.
If Buzz goes on a dangerous assignment, we should go with him, right, Buzz?
I appreciate your concern, Mira, but trust me, when Shiv's involved, it's best I work alone.
Then when the truth is exposed, it all suddenly makes sense. Once I learned the purpose behind Shiv Katal, I couldn't help feeling emotionally moved by such a mission project. A lot of fictional media tends to treat villain employees as expendable or disposable, so it's uplifting to see how Star Command goes out of their way to save defectors. What makes this all extra personal for me is how I resonated with these employees. I've often been stuck in awful, degrading jobs while working for abusive employers, and every day I would wish that someone would come save me, because quitting was never a realistic option. So, watching my childhood hero rescue traumatized employees from an over-demanding hellish job, then helping them find a new, safer career, made me smile and almost tear up. Kids will enjoy seeing Buzz Lightyear doing a different kind of noble deed in a badass costume, but adults will empathize with the sentiment behind the Shiv Katal legend on a deeper level. This is my favorite episode of the series, because it shows how a hero's work isn't all about beating up bad guys. Sometimes it requires human compassion for those trapped working for evil corporations. And I have to respect a children's cartoon for recognizing this. Right, that's it for this countdown. So which would your picks be? Let everyone know in the comment section below. Oh, and don't forget to like this video, plus maybe share it on social media. I've been Jambareeqi. Cheerio, folks.